Hello. I am going to be reading off of my notes that I get. Um, if I'm looking down, that is why I'm looking to see all my comments. We're gonna go in order of like the different like links with like the timeline of the women's suffraging, the robots, the British Medical Journal, and then like the Soviet Daughter Part One and Part Two. Um, I'm gonna keep it a little like concise just for the sake of like data on my computer. But for the timeline of the women's suffraging, obviously like this was like said like in there that August 18, 2020 marked like the 100th anniversary. Now I guess it would be the 105th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th century, which I thought like wow, insane that like this actually like people were like living in this time zone of like this happening and like I wasn't there to experience it. And like just a global milestone of all of this, with Argentina being in 1911, Russia being 1917, Canada 1918, US 1920, and the 19th Amendment happening, and then India and South Asia in 1948. Um, this global milestone of like this timeline of which I just stated, showing how like women's suffrage was a um, simultaneous like worldwide shift, and that different countries were able to achieve this, and that also the UN convention like continue to protect these rights that they so hardly work like they so like hard worked for hard not hardly worked for so worked hardly for. Yeah. um I thought that was great with all these different countries and what a huge milestone. um and then for the next one, the robot. um This happened in 1929. So this is all a century old. And I find it crazy that here we are, fast forward a century now, um, that R.J. Wensley, um, invented this man slash robot that would respond to human commands. And that the author predicted that like robots would eventually like supplement like men and like make human workers like gone. And it's crazy because I feel like for me, like I didn't quite come aware of like the fact that like robots are a thing within until like the past like 5 years. And I got very much educated like reading this because like all of this was a century ago. That I kind of, and he was right. Like there are robots. There's literally like self-driving cars. There's robots that are literally delivering food. Like in LA, I see robots like on TikTok and no, they're not AI, and AI is also a robot, which is also insane because robots were a thing a century ago. Here we are now. We have robots and they've only become like much better. Imagine where we will be a century from now. Century a year ago, that robots and all of this was such a big thing. Here we are now a century later. Oh my gosh, like this is still happening and it's just getting like robots and technology is only getting like better. Just imagine where our world is going to be in a century from now. Like mind-boggling. Like it's crazy. I know that like people are like AI is so cool, like the full intelligence, like robots. Oh my gosh, yes. But may God bless our soul for what is going to happen to us as humans. I don't know. Technology can really take over the world. I like they literally had movies like I don't know. But I found that crazy that it was literally all like a century old, all of this. Uh, and yeah, and then going towards the British Medical Journal, the human rights. I don't have too much to say on this. I just found it quite astonishing that it did like a whole 180 of this progressive social reform, that it was supposed to be this progressive social reform, but it quite literally became a tool for racism. Like a complete 180. And then like what? And then for the Soviet daughter, I felt as if I've stated in like previous like videos, I'm not a big history person. I will admit that. There may be comments that are common sense that I'm like, wow. Um, but I felt as if, and I don't know if we were supposed to read these, um, but I felt as if reading it helped me convey this image in my head and showing me like about Soviet history and like Jewish identity and all of the like graphic historical trauma that came with that. I felt as if the contrast between like the granddaughter like quite struggling with the identity in the US and Lola's direct life-threatening struggle during like the Russian Civil War um was was very like powerful to read and like it really just conveyed like the personal cost of being that identity and that poverty. And yeah, I honestly I I enjoyed reading it and yeah, I'll leave it at that. But but yeah, that's all.